So why is it that companies like Anthropic, OpenAI, Meta and Shopify seem to be able to ship something new almost every week, while most businesses, maybe years, take months to change anything at all? And the answer most people expect is because they're using better AI models and tools than you. But that's not entirely true. More or less everyone now has access to the same models and core technology. So the models aren't really the difference. The difference is where the business lives. And that's what we're going to cover in today's video. I'm going to walk through why the fastest companies in the world can move at the speed of their AI tools, while most businesses can't. What's actually different about how they run, and the 5 key changes that matter if you want some of that speed. So it's not a big cultural revolution, it's 5 specific shifts, and you could start at least one of them today. So here's a question to sit with. If I ask you how your business handles a specific situation, let's say it's a customer complaint that's coming in, or a lead that goes quiet, where does that answer live? Because for most companies, the honest answer is in someone's head. Sarah knows how the onboarding actually works. John knows which suppliers to call for what. The follow-up process is whatever that person who's doing the follow-up remembers to do. So decisions get made in meetings and then they're soon forgotten. And 2 weeks later, someone asks, what did we agree in that meeting? And now you have to go and conduct the meeting again. And that worked fine for a long time. But here's what's changed. With where the models are today, especially with Claude and Codex, they can now genuinely do a serious amount of real work. And there's a lot of leverage to gain from this. But the catch is that an AI agent can only act on what's visible and written down. So it can't act on what's in Sarah's head. It can't act on a decision that lives in the memory of a meeting. So when the company's shipping fast, the business lives in writing and in code. Everything is documented. That's data and context. Decisions get written where they can be acted on. Processes become steps an agent can follow. Done is defined clearly enough that it can be checked without a manager having to look over someone's shoulder the whole time. Whereas in a lot of businesses, every piece of work starts with someone having to explain the context again. So the business moves at the speed of that explanation. Not the AI, not the tools, but the explanation itself. And that's the real difference. It's not some secret model, although we've all heard the rumors about internal models with Anthropic like Mythos being kept from the public, but that's beside the point. It's that these businesses that are moving quicker with this technology, their business is readable by these tools. And that's through having the available context and data available. Now, if you go look into this, you'll find a lot of people saying you need to rebuild your whole operating model to fix it. You need to rip up how you plan, migrate to all these different systems, restructure the team, change everything at once, or you're going to get left behind. And I don't agree with that at all. If you have a business that's been around for a while, it already works, it has clients, you have staff, you have revenue, ripping up how everything runs because someone told you to be AI native is how you break the thing that pays for itself. So you don't need to rebuild and turn your business on its head overnight. Your processes already work. That's the bit that people miss about their own business. So the way you chase payments, the way you qualify a lead, the way you onboard a client, you've already figured that out through the years of doing it. The problem isn't necessarily the process. The problem is that it's trapped in people's heads. So only people can run it and only as fast as people can go. So the job isn't redesign the whole company, but the job is just get what already works out of people's head and into writing. And that's a much smaller task. And you can do it one process at a time. And here's what that looks like in practice. 5 shifts. First one being meetings ending in writing. So when a meeting ends, the decision gets written down somewhere that it can be acted on. So what we're doing, who owns it, and what done looks like. If a decision only exists in the memory of a conversation, it'll get re-explained, re-litigated, re-decided. Written decisions stay decided. And once they're written, an agent can pick up on them and act on them, which is the point here. I'd also highly recommend using a note-taker tool. So we use Fireflies. There's loads of them out there. But document your meetings. It's probably one of the best decisions that we've made is having every single meeting documented with our Fireflies. So we have endless context that our agents can act upon. The second is anything you've explained at least 3 times or more becomes a document. You already know which things these are. It's the stuff you find yourself repeating to new staff, to the team, or even to yourself. And the third time you explain something, that's a signal that it should be written down once. properly instead of being re-performed every time or re-explained every time. Every one of those documents is something a person no longer has to hold, and it's something an agent can now work from. These can include SOPs, so standard operating procedures, employee manuals, playbooks, guides, standards. Third is done gets defined so it can be checked without you. A lot of owners and managers spend their week being that quality control check. So everything crosses their desk because done only exists in their judgment. Write the standard down. What does a good follow-up email contain? What has to be true before a job's ready to invoice? Once the standard's written, checking against it can be delegated to a person or a system. You stop being the bottleneck on every single decision. The fourth is shorten the distance between wanting something and seeing a version of it. Said differently, the old pattern is describe what you want, hand it over, wait weeks, get back something that's missed the point, and then repeat. When building is cheap, that whole loop is unnecessary. So get a rough version in front of you in days and then react to the real thing, adjust it. You'll make far better decisions reacting to something concrete than you ever will writing a specification for something that's imaginary or not proven. And this can apply to anything you're building. So workflows, vibe coded apps, software, as well as reports, campaigns, documents, and anything else that gets produced. AI has significantly sped up the time to build on these that we can adjust and iterate things a lot quicker. The fifth is keep judgment human. This one is important. The judgment call stays with people. The relationships stay with people. The difficult conversations with the client stays with people. The call on whether someone's right for a role, the decision about where the business goes next, don't try write those down as a process. Don't try outsource it to AI. Write down everything around them so that your people get their time back for exactly that type of work. The goal isn't fewer people, it's people spending their time on the things only people can do or should do. Let me make this concrete with something almost every business has. A lead goes quiet after a quote, and in a lot of businesses, the follow-up lives in one person's or many people's heads. When to send the first nudge, what it says, how many attempts to make before you let it go, which leads get attention and why. And that person's good at it, but because it's all in their head, they're also the ceiling of it as well. It happens when they've got time, at the pace that they can manage. Some leads get chased properly, some get forgotten. Nobody can tell which. So in that case, you need to write it down. You need to document your follow-up process, record the context around these engagements. That document changes everything downstream. So a new starter can run it in week one or pick up from previous engagements. An agent can run 80% of the routine, the nudges, the logging, the flagging, and your person only handles the ones that are worth their attention. And nothing's being rebuilt. Nobody's job has been redesigned. The knowledge that already existed has become an infrastructure instead of sitting in someone's memory. And another warning before I wrap up, because there's a failure mode to this as well. It's not doing this badly, but it's turning it into one big project. You decide you're going to map out every process within the business. You're going to buy software for it, schedule workshops, and build the great process library. And then 6 months later, there's a beautiful half-finished plan that nobody looks at and nothing has changed. Analysis paralysis kills more of this than bad execution ever does. So don't map the business. Pick one process. The one that you've explained most recently is usually the one to start with. So write it down this week as plainly as you'd explain it to a new starter. Give it to someone or something else to run. Handle the exceptions and then pick the next one. Every process you move out of people's head and into writing compounds because it frees up the exact people whose time you'll need for the next one. So why do AI companies ship every week while most companies take months to change anything? And it's not the better AI. Their business lives in writing and in code that agents can act on. Most businesses live in people's heads, so everything moves at the speed of whoever's doing the explaining. You don't fix that by rebuilding your company. You fix it by taking what already works and document it in some sort of way. Meetings end in writing. Repeated explanations becoming documented. Done gets clearly defined. Data and details and context get captured. Judgment, trust, and the human stuff stays with your team. So start with one process, ship it, and then move to the next. If you got value from this, please subscribe. I've also included a link below that will have some additional resources on the topic discussed today.